We are about to open here the Buckeye Board of Education meeting. This is Tuesday, August 13th, and we're late at 7:25 p.m. Roll call, please.
Barco?
Here.
Dunkelman?
Here.
Mattson?
Here.
Savarchi? Here. Stahl?
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission of the Buckeye Local School District is to empower students to excel in a highly competitive society. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business, and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Approval of minutes. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the minutes for the regular meeting of July 9th, 2019, and the special meetings of July 15th and the 25th, 2019. A motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any questions or comments on the minutes? Roll call.
Barco?
Yes.
Savarchi?
Yes.
Stahl?
Abstain.
Mattson?
Abstain.
And Dunkelman.
Yes. Recommendation statement. Following are recommendations that have been identified for approval as part of the consent agenda for this board meeting. If a board member wishes to remove any item from this agenda for further discussion prior to taking action, please let either the superintendent or board president know. We do have a couple of changes. We are removing in item B, French 1 course of study and French 2 course of study. And we are removing letter I, agreement with Medina ESC. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
Just the two duplicates with our extended time
what
contracts. That was under personnel on page 17. We had Victoria Ludwig and Candace Abbott listed twice
Okay,
for extended time contract.
I see that. Okay. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the consent agenda of August 13th, 2019 as presented. I'll entertain a motion. Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mattson?
Yes.
Barco?
Yes.
Savarchi?
Yes.
Stahl?
Yes.
Dunkelman.
Yes. Mrs. Knapp, the treasurer's report.
Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the treasurer's report as presented, including all internal budgets, amended certificates, and appropriations to the county auditor as on file in the treasurer's office. A copy of the documents are attached to the board members' agenda as Appendix A. Agreement with K-12 Business Consulting. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve a 5-year forecasting program license agreement with K-12 Business Consulting for an annual fee of $6,500. A copy of the agreement is attached to the board members' agendas as Appendix B. A complete copy of the agreement will be held in the treasurer's office. Agreement with Ray & Associates. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve an agreement with Ray & Associates for purpose of preparing the school district's annual comprehensive financial report for the years ending June 30th, 2019, 2020, and 2021. A copy of the agreement is attached to the board members' agenda as Appendix C. A complete copy of the agreement will be held in the treasurer's office. Authorized payments. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the submitted invoices for payments to the Medina County Sanitary Engineers and View Solutions for services provided to the district. A detailed explanation, copy of the documents are attached to the board members' agendas as Appendix D. A delegate for the appointment for annual business meeting. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education appoint a delegate and an alternate to attend the annual business meeting of the Ohio School Boards Association On Monday, November 11th, 2019, board members representing Buckeye Local Schools will be determined here this evening. And before we do that, I just want to make a mention about, in case anyone saw the paper Saturday morning, Auditor Kovac released his reappraisal increases, and that the reappraisal is done every 6 years and an update's done every 3 years, and that's how our tax dollars or levy dollars are calculated on. Residential values in Medina County will increase approximately 12.5% on average for residential properties. Specifically in his news release, Litchfield Township will have a 16.71% increase in residential taxes, and Medina City residents living in the Buckeye Local District will see an increase of 16.56% on average. So the reappraisal we knew would come in, most properties coming back up from recession, and this gives us an idea. We do not have official values yet from them. Those will be released later.
All right, thank you for that information. Are there any folks here who would like to volunteer to serve as a delegate for the business meeting of the Ohio School Boards Association?
If nobody's overly excited, I would nominate.
All right. Well, thank you, Dennis.
Denise will go as the alternate.
Would you like to be an alternate?
I think Mr. Barker would do a much nicer job as being the alternate, but I will accept it. Just
Is that all
to be
right?
nice.
Is that an acceptance?
Sort of.
I don't want anybody to be disappointed here.
So something happens to me on the way here, and steps in.
Ken and I.
So we do have Dennis Matson to serve as the delegate and Denise Pavarchi to serve as the alternate. Thank you both. Let's have a motion then to accept the treasurer's report.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Stahl?
Yes.
Kovarchi?
Yes.
Mattson?
Yes.
Barko?
Yes.
Kunkelman?
Yes.
So now we didn't have discussion. Just want to make it clear, what you read was the valuation. It's not necessarily the taxes,
Correct.
or
Property
not
valuation.
necessarily the taxes that we'll receive.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification.
Public participation. The public is invited to speak to any of the agenda items and other school topics. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Direct questions will not be answered by the Board of Education members at this time. However, answers will be given at a later date as appropriate. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board this evening? Okay, we'll take the first lady here in the pink shirt. And I.
That's you. That's
That looks.
I
Good evening,
should
ladies and
remember your
gentlemen.
name.
I know you see me often now. Again, Claire Conley over on Stone Road. Many of you have been receiving emails from me, but first of all, I hope everyone has a great start to the school year. I know it's fast approaching. My children are very excited. I'm very excited as everyone starts to go back. So I hope everyone has a good start. I just want to be here to be the thorn in your side to see how things are progressing, how I can be helpful. If you need outside support for a latchkey program, again, I am here for you. Just keep please in the back of your mind some of those numbers that we had spoken about private child care costs versus the public sector in the schools and what your surrounding districts are charging for latchkey programs. I'm very excited to see what progresses at this point. And again, please keep me in mind if you need some help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the young lady behind.
Okay, so I've never been here before, so I've run too long or whatever the case is.
You
So I
just
could
need to
present
tell
a
us
public
your name.
question. My name is Jennifer Ferrum. I live on Smith Road. I'm the proud parent of 3 beautiful girls that go to Buckeye. I've been here for about 5 years, involved in sports, fundraising for the community, etc. My concern is, with the new school year starting, I received the bus information for my children on Friday, and then I did get a letter from the Board of Education from Greg Pollock, stating that my children would not be able, I believe this affects about 5 children to my knowledge, will be able to receive the public transportation from Buckeye until the construction is completed on Smith Road and Commerce Road, which is in Medina City, I believe. Till further notice, till that completion of that project's done. To my knowledge, with my research, I could be wrong, that's slated till possibly anticipated the end of September for that project to be done. I work for the government, the United States Department of Veterans Affairs, and it probably won't be done when they slate it. Because of that, there was a few options given to me in this letter that was dated August 9th, and it mailed to me on Monday, yesterday, which is the 12th, giving me approximately 8 to 9 days before the school starts to make these arrangements. But the options that were outlined from the letter of the Board of Education were, number one, transport your old child to school. It's not really an option because I wouldn't have them go to the bus. The last option was to take them to a child's home that they can then transport to school. Well, I don't have that as an option either. Option number two is for the high school student to be picked up from my location on Commerce Road by McJack Candy, which is approximately 1.5 to 1.8 miles down the road, to where they would have to walk. Be picked up about 6:58. Average walking time, that'd be about 30 to 40 minutes. We all know there's no side streets, 50 miles an hour, dark roads. Okay. Option for the 7-year-old twins I have would be 1.9 miles to be picked up from Livia Circle, which is 2 turns, 50 mile an hour. I think posted signs are 45 to 50 miles an hour. Obviously ditches, it's not well groomed, the best they could. That's approximately a 37 average speed, 40 mile. It's going to take like an hour, and it's not safe. My question is, I called this morning to try to arrange it. I believe her name is Judy Ellich. Sorry, I called that extension that was on the letter, and she gave me some information. I inquired as to why Buckeye schools weren't able to use the school bus depot down the road to turn around as they've done in the past for other various things. She then informed me that it was an agreement between Medina City Schools and Cloverleaf that Buckeye schools were not going to be using that, not able to use that as a turnaround to transport their students. I inquired why, and then, she didn't have all the information, so then she stated that she would forward this to Mr. Greg Pollock, who's actually out of the office till Thursday on vacation, which is awesome. We all need that. Which leaves me approximately 4 business days to figure out what my options are. My question is why this is not going to affect, apparently, Cloverleaf schools, which are right across the road from me, or Medina schools. And that construction is actually in Medina City, I do believe, not in Buckeye Township. My question is, why did this just be brought to my attention with such short notice? Why can't Buckeye schools use that? Why was there agreement they cannot use that to use as a turnaround? We are on the district outskirts, and I understand there might only be a few of us that are affected by this. But because of that, we pay taxes, we're still involved in stuff. Why is this? I feel like it's being discriminated against because we're on the outskirts. There's only so few of them that ride the bus. I don't know why it's short notice, why they can't use that. And I don't understand why the list of 4 options that were given to me on that letter are even acceptable for our children's safety, for the anxiety that it would bring them to walking this distance. I just don't understand how these 4 options are even an acceptable list of alternatives to this problem. And why is it affecting our Buckeye students, negatively affecting them, when it's not even necessarily in our, I know we have to make modifications and go with flow and altercations at times, but why is it negatively affecting us? And we don't even know the end date. And the time span was absolutely unacceptable that it was brought up that late. It's literally mailed with their school assignments.
Can you spell your last name for me?
F as in Frank, I-R-E, M as in Mary.
Okay. Obviously, this is new information to us, so we will have someone get back with you.
Okay, I do have a photo of the letter. It was listed from the Board of Education.
I'm sure they'll have it in the
Yes, ma'am.
Conservation office too.
I would appreciate any insight or explanation or anything on that.
We'll take a look at it and someone will get back to you.
Thank you kindly. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Yes.
I wanted to second on what Claire had to say about the latchkey program. I'm very interested in getting something like that together, and I have emailed Superintendent Kent Morgan about it and said I'm more than happy to help with anything, as long as it doesn't incur into my schedule of work Monday through Friday, 7 to 3. So, anytime before 7 or after 3, I'm there for you.
Okay. And your name, please?
Lindsay Bowling. And that's EY and bowling with a bowling alley.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, then we will move on to the superintendent's informational items.
Letter A, we have our 2019-20 important dates for this month. Our first day back for teachers is next Monday, August 19th. We have all staff in service on Tuesday, August 20th. And number 3, I'm sure the students in attendance are happy to hear that we have our first day back for grades 1 through 12 students on Wednesday, the 21st. Our first day back for kindergarten students is Friday, August 23rd, and our first day back for preschool students is Monday, August 26th. Our open house schedule, we have our primary open house scheduled for August 19th, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Our open house for intermediate is August 19th, 6 to 7:30 p.m. And our open house for the junior high is August 20th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And the high school open house is August 20th from 7 to 8 p.m. And next up is our Eagle Scout project by Andrew and Justin Hoschauer. And we're going to have you come up and...
Mrs. Doty needs a set
All
up.
right.
Okay.
Justin, give me a notice on my back, okay?
My name is Justin Hoschauer, and this is a presentation from my Eagle Scout for the Buckeye Soccer Association. Special thanks to Buckeye Local School District that has allowed the Buckeye Soccer Association to develop the area behind the high school soccer field for the local youth soccer program. Special thanks also to Todd Houston, Chris, and Eric Olson for providing heavy equipment. This project was needed because the Buckeye soccer fields are always getting flooded, and multiple games and practices had to be canceled. Those solutions were to install French drains to help the fields dry out faster after heavy rains, and the French drains would tie into the basement field drainage system. The French drain would tie into the baseball field drain right here. It would go down and across, and then it would go down all 3 fields. This is the original proposed plan. The original drain design, we had a total of 20 tons of gravel needed, and this is a cross cut of the pipe. We would have 2 inches of dirt on top with 8 inches of gravel with a pipe in the middle surrounded by cloth. So in the budget, we had a total of $3,100. Main contributors being the 4-inch threaded pipe and the gravel. So to plan the drainage layout, we used the transit to find out where the high and low spots would be and where the pipe would go. So after talking with the Soccer Association and the superintendent, we decided to put 6-inch pipe in blue right here to tie into my brother Andrew's project, and to have pipe going across and then down the 2 fields. So the revised drain design would have 4-inch pipe and 6-inch pipe with no cloth around the gravel, and it would have 4 inches of pipe on top instead of 2. So the final plan that we actually used was to have 6-inch pipe going across the 2 fields and tie into my brother's project, and 4-inch pipe going off into the weeds over there next to the pond. And then the pipes would be over here because the water would come from this field down here up into these ones. So to make sure no water got into either of these fields. So for the project, the night before we worked with Todd Thiessen to trench several lines in preparation for Saturday. The trencher was used to dig the trench lines. And right here, this is the deepest trench we dug. It was about 30 inches deep, and it was that deep because we had to go through a hill, and it still had to go lower than the side of the road. So, a team was assigned to measure the depth of each trench, ensure the bottom of the trench was clean. We had people doing that right here. Then a skid loader was used to carry the gravel to the trench, and then about 2 inches of gravel was cut into each trench. Pipe was then laid into each trench, and then a skid loader was used to cover the pipe with 2 inches of gravel. Then the skid loader filled the dirt back into the trench, and the excess dirt was removed. This is a video of before the. This is a video of before the trench was filled.
You got some.
Overall, we had 30 different people contribute to this project, over 200 man-hours total, 1,900 feet of pipe was laid, 40 tons of gravel was used. For heavy equipment, we used 2 skid loaders and a trencher. Final cost was $2,050, about $1,050 into the estimated cost.
My name is Andrew Hoshauer, and this is my Eagle Scout project for the Buckeye Soccer Association. Special thanks to the Buckeye Local Schools District for allowing us to work on the fields behind the track. Also special thanks to Todd Thiessen and First Day for providing heavy equipment, and also to my dad for helping recruit and organize people. This project was needed because the Buckeye U77 fields flooded during the fall and spring soccer seasons. Last year when I participated in the Buckeye Rec soccer program, I had multiple games and practices that were canceled or rescheduled. The proposed solution was to build French drains that would allow the fields to drain faster after heavy rains. A French drain is a trench filled with gravel with pipe in it that moves water from one area to another. French drains are tied to baseball field drainage. This is the original plan. There are 3 lanes of 4-inch pipe going down, connecting into one pipe going to the baseball field drain. This is a section of the original pipe trench design. It's 10 inches deep with gravel in it and pipe in the center of the gravel and 2 inches of soil on top. This is the original cost estimate. It totals at around $2,300, and with the major cost drivers being the gravel, trench, and fabric. We planned the drainage layout using the transit to determine where the drainage lanes would be. We also measured the trench lengths to see how much pipe we needed. This is the plan after talking to the Buckeye Soccer Association and the superintendent. The blue is the 6-inch pipe and the 4-inch pipe is red. We added 2 3 more lines and remove the branch off so that it would be in the lowest area. This is the revised drain design. The 4-inch is deeper and the 6 inches wider and deeper. On July 27th, we did a practice run and connected to the baseball drainage line. We did this so we could see how we would organize the groups on Saturday. This is the dump truck that drove over the trench and we shoveled gravel out of it into the trench. We also used the transit to make sure that the trench was going down as it was getting closer to the pipe, the drain, and those two are pictures of the trencher. On Friday, August 2nd, we met with Todd to trench several lines and clean some of them out and lay out pipe in preparation for Saturday. On the day of the project, Saturday, one team was assigned to measure the trench with a tape measure and make sure the bottom of the trench was clean. That is in that picture over there, and other people put 2 inches of gravel on the bottom with a skid loader and the wheelbarrows. Pipe was laid into each trench after the 2 inches of gravel was put down, and a truck with gravel then drove over the trench, and gravel was shoveled into the truck, out of the truck to fill the trench, and that was right here. And then the skid loaders also put gravel over the pipe, and in these two pictures, and then the skid loaders removed excess dirt after filling the trench back up with dirt. This is a This is the review of the project. 24 different people helped to do the Eagle Scout project with a total of 179 hours, 1,830 feet of pipe was laid, and 40 tons of gravel were used. The equipment we used was the dump truck, trencher, and skid loader, and the final cost was $2,050.
That's amazing. Wow.
And you did it without rain?
That's incredible. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate your work on the soccer fields. Any questions before we move on to the next?
No, I just know, I mean, just as a spectator for soccer games for the grandkids, just to go back there and have my feet not be soaked at every step will be really nice. And it'll be nice for the folks who need to play on them. So, I mean, really impressive, guys. I have to tell you, very impressive. Congratulations on all that work.
Thank you very much.
Nice job. Superintendent's recommendations, item A is final reading of the following policies. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education consider the policies listed below as presented. Copies of the complete policies are attached to board members' agenda as Appendix E. Number 1, policy 0100, social media, revised definitions. Policy number 2, policy 3215, use of tobacco by professional staff. Item 3, policy 4215, use of tobacco by classified staff. Number 4 is policy 5113.02, school choice options. Policy 5512, use of tobacco. Item 6 is policy 5610, removal, suspension, expulsion, and permanent exclusion of students. Number 7 is policy 5610.03, emergency removal of students. Number 8 is policy 6320, purchasing and bidding. Policy 6325, procurement, federal grants and funds. Policy 6605, crowdfunding. Policy 7434, use of tobacco on school premises. Policy 7540.02, web accessibility, content, apps, and services. Policy 8400, school safety, and Policy 8500, food services. Item B, final reading of student curriculum, recommended Buckeye Board of Education review the attached courses of study adoption. Number 1, art history. Number 2, sports history. And number 3, K-12 technology curriculum 2019. A copy of the curriculum will be attached to board members' agendas as Appendix F. Item C, Buckeye High School Handbook. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the Buckeye High School Handbook for the 2019-20 school year as submitted. Copy of the high school handbook is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix G. Item D, approval of Stop It Solutions contract. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the contract with Stop It Solutions to provide anonymous reporting and incident management for the Buckeye School District at the cost of $1,664.28 for the 2019-20 school year. A copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix H. A complete copy of the agreement will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item E, memorandum of understanding with Ohio Guidestone. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve a memorandum of understanding with Ohio Guidestone concerning the provision of behavioral health services to Buckeye local school students. A copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix I. A complete copy of the agreement will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item F, agreement with Ohio Schools Council Lake Erie Educational Media Consortium. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve an agreement with Ohio Schools Council to participate in the Council's cooperative LEEMC program, which shall be effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. A copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix J. A complete copy of the agreement will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item G, approval of Medina City Schools contract. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the memorandum of understanding with Medina City Schools regarding the placement of Buckeye local school students in Medina County Juvenile Detention Center for the 2019-20 school year. Copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix K. Complete copy of the agreement will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item H, agreement with the Medina County Board of Developmental Disabilities. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve an agreement with MCBDD for the one-on-one transition program service, which shall be effective August 21st, 2019 through August 14th, 2020. A copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix L. Complete copy of the agreement will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item I, approval of the 2019-20 foreign exchange student. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve Josephine Krabson as Buckeye High School 2019-20 foreign exchange student. Josephine is from Denmark and is sponsored by Youth for Understanding and Intercultural Exchange Programs. Item K, cook job description. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the revised job description for a Buckeye cook. A copy of the job description is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix N. Item L, agreement with the BLEA. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the terms of agreement with the Buckeye Local Education Association on behalf of the 2019-20 work schedule for Elizabeth Smelzer. A copy of the agreement is attached to the board members' agendas as Appendix O. A complete copy of the agreement will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item M, Cleveland Clinic Foundation Athletic Training Agreement. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the agreement between the Cleveland Clinic Foundation and the Buckeye Local Schools for athletic training. A copy of the agreement is attached to the board members' agendas as Appendix P. A complete copy of the agreement will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item N, Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio Agreement. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the agreement with the ESC of Northeast Ohio for admission of 2 Buckeye students with visual impairments for the 2019-20 school year. Copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix Q. Complete copy of the agreement will be held in the Treasurer's office.
May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendations?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on these?
2 items. On the Stop It solution,
Yes.
have our students and parents been utilizing that?
They have. We've had it now for 2 years, and we've had multiple uses at both the high school and the junior high, and sporadic at the intermediate primary.
I'm glad to hear that, because it is costing some money, but it is a very valuable tool if people use it.
And it allows for anonymous reporting, and allows our administrators to be able to text back and have a conversation, get more details, and still be anonymous. So it is a very useful tool if our families will use that, yes.
And the other thing is you got off on your lettering.
I realize that, yeah.
Just for Jen's sake.
Yeah. I could reread them.
No, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Barkle,
Yes.
Archie,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Mattson,
Yes.
Kunklin.
Yes. Before we move on to personnel, I would just like to say to the young men and their family that you don't have to stay for the whole meeting.
Sneak out here eventually.
Okay, it's all right.
Yeah, we're the downhill side.
Personnel.
Item A, certified personnel. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following certified personnel items as presented. Number one, renewal of contracts. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the contracts for the following employees for 2019-20 school year. Maria Colapetro, tutor, and Matthew McMullen, tutor. Number two, special education extended hours. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the request for extended hours effective July 13th, 2019 for the following special education employees: school psychologists, speech language pathologists, and our preschool teachers. Item three, renewal of extended time contracts. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve to renew the following extended time contracts for the 2019-20 school year as presented. Item four, approval to increase workday. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve to increase Elizabeth Smelser's workday to 0.89 FTE for the 2019-20 school year. Item five, approval of resignation. We recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education accept the resignation of Alexandria Petrak, French teacher, effective August 13th, 2019. Item six, approval for employment. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the employment contract for Brianna Cabot as a Buckeye High School science teacher. Ms. Cabot will be paid BA0, Step 1 of the negotiated agreement. B, certified substitutes. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the attached list of certified substitutes tutors recommended by the Medina County Schools ESC to work on an as-needed basis for the 2019-20 school year. A copy of the list is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix R. Item C, classified personnel. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following classified personnel items as presented. Number one, resignation. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education accept the resignation of Glenn Reisner, maintenance supervisor, effective July 31st, 2020. Mr. Reisner's resignation is for the purpose of retirement. Item two, renewal of extended time contracts. Recommend to renew the following extended time contracts for the 2019-20 school year as presented. Item D, unpaid leave of absence. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve an unpaid leave of absence for Connie Young, preschool paraprofessional, effective August 20th, 2019 through December 1st, 2019. Her anticipated return date is December 2nd, 2019. Item E, classified substitutes. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the attached list of classified substitutes to work on an as-needed basis for the 2019-20 school year, effective July 1st, 2019, as presented. And item D, supplemental contract approval. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following supplemental contracts pending certifications as well as resignations effective the 2019-20 school year as listed. And the only other piece that I wanted to add is we do have our new science teacher in attendance. If Mr. Flood would introduce Brianna, please.
Yes, thank you. Again, I'm Mr. Flood, and with us, we had an unexpected leave this summer, and so one of the first things that I was tasked with at the high school was to come in and find a new science teacher. And myself, Mrs. Valente, and Dr. Collins spent some time interviewing many candidates, and the finest of all of them presented themselves, and that was Bree. So we are so welcome. We love having her here, and she already has been just a lot of joy to come into the building, a smiling face, and her mom works at the Career Center, so we've got that connection as well. So
Nice to meet everybody. Super excited.
Welcome. I'll entertain a motion for the personnel items.
Motion.
Second. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Mattson,
Yes.
Kovarchi, yes. Stahl,
Yes.
Barkle,
Yes.
Kunklin.
Yes. This is the time for board comments, if there are any. Anyone wishing to comment tonight?
Well, yes.
Go ahead.
We had it on our earlier one to follow up on the budgetary discussion. And I think that we, at our next meeting, we definitely need to follow up on that. I don't think we gave Kent and Jen real good direction on our Chevy analysis, or analogy rather. It can't be all one way, it can't be all the other way. We've gotta find a way, and I don't know how, I think we need to really think about how we can give them a little bit better direction, when we come to our next meeting. Cause I don't know if maybe you guys thought it was clear. I thought it was kind of clear as mud, but the direction that we gave you.
Yeah, certainly we need more time on that. Will you have had your meeting by then?
I'm scheduled for this Friday, and I also scheduled next Friday. So
Okay.
I'll have.
So we'll have a little bit of information on our direction. So will we put that on the work session? Anyone else?
Just want to welcome everyone back. It's, I can't believe summer break is ending, but welcome back and welcome to Buckeye BOE.
Thank you.
And nice to have you. And I was so impressed with these Eagle Scouts. I'd like
Oh,
to
my
get their
goodness.
addresses if I can. I'll call up tomorrow and get their address, because that's incredible what they did. And I know they pulled in a lot of help, and that's awesome. That's leadership right there. So very impressive.
Anyone else have anything? Oh.
I got something I wanted to address here for the extended hours for special education. I was not aware that this was something that was to be considered. I was wondering what the extended hours would be used for, because my son has IEP with family reprieve, and I know that my son's sister passed away in March, and it's affected him a lot. So we've had times where we've had to say, hey, can you watch him on certain days when he's not being himself in case he needs to see someone. So I don't want the psychologists or speech therapists and stuff like that to be losing out on the time that they need to help our students.
Now, actually, our special education director is right behind you. And so you could maybe address what we mean by extended hours.
Well, what happens is a lot of students get what's the word I'm looking for? Identified past the school year. So when our teachers are no longer in the office, we still have to do our testing and things like that. So that's when Mrs. DePriest, who's our speech therapist, she would do some testing on students. So it's primarily for testing. It's not really with working with students. They work with students during the normal school year. This would be for if a preschool student moves in, or if there's say June, or let's say May 15th, we decide that we need to do a test on this student. We need to provide somebody to give that test. So that's why we have a school psychologist take some extra time, or a speech therapist, or things like that. So that's what that's used for. Yeah, we're not changing any of the services. You would know, yeah, that would happen. This wouldn't happen. Yeah, it would be very clear if anything like that was happening. And I'm sorry if that. Yeah, this is extra upon they have their normal contract. This is extra days that they use at the beginning. Like right now, a few of them are coming in to give some testing for some preschool students to make sure we have them qualified and things like that. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yes, you're welcome. All right then, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Second? I'll second it. And roll call, please.
Savarchi?
Yes.
Stonkelman?
Yes.
Mattson?
Yes.
Self?
Yes.
Greco?
Yes.
All right, we are adjourned.